Hi there, I'm Gregg. I'm a moderator from the UWx Facebook community. I haven't really streamed in a while, and the closest thing I have is run a podcast with the admin Fran and Madi. But there are other members that have streamed, and I'm one of the few that play a different kind of deck than the Swords. We've had Miracles be streamed, and we've had Esper Mentor streamed. Now, I'm not actually going to start going into leagues for a while since I am racked up with my time. I have a few things I need to actually focus on besides Magic, so I don't really know if I can get into properly streaming leagues per league, and I don't actually play into them often, but I do get into games every now and then. And part of that is I got into a game with another moderator over the weekend. Well, I had some time and we just kind of ran a match. It was with Richard John while he played the blue-red Pyromancer deck that top 8 at the Pro Tour, and I played my current build of Esper tokens, which is, as you see before you. I can do a quick deck tech on this, but I have written context of it, and my main deck or even sideboard hasn't changed that much. In the link in the description below, you can find a connection to the place where I write about Magic content. With this deck, I figure I'll just go into it quickly. It's mostly just it is an Esper tokens deck that basically focuses on Lingering Souls, Gideon, Alive Zendikar, and Secure the Waste as being the ways to efficiently close out the game. Lingering Souls being one of the best cards that both play on defense and offense against a majority of the format, while also just never being a dead card consistently. It works from the graveyard, so it's basically 2 cards in 1. Secure the Waste is a top-end card that can act as either a removal spell or a absolutely insane massive tokens. Getting Ally of Zendikar works perfectly in this deck to fill up another way to clock the opponent, while also having synergy with Lingering Souls and Secure the Waste in the form that it creates more tokens and that it also puts out an emblem for the token, so that I can go just tap out for Secure the Waste and then get an emblem, win the game. Now, since this is a control deck, I have the control-ish elements of counter spells in some forms, Snapcaster Mace to make my counter spells, creature land, or removal spells from Fatal Push, Path to Exile, Go for the Throat, and Cryptic Command better. There is a lock with Cryptic Command Snapcaster Mace that doesn't happen too often, where you can bounce a Snapcaster and you can just play. Now, another main card about this deck is Collective Brutality, which works with Think Twice, Lingering Souls, and Snapcaster Mages to make other cards just better. It acts as the last few points of damage, just sometimes, in cases need be. It acts as removal for cards that are essential to get rid of, as there is a slew of X2s out there. It also just acts as another form of interaction that gets rid of spells that cause problems. Besides Planeswalkers, it answers everything else better. It answers mostly instants and sorcery, so against things like Infect, Burn, Collected Company decks, Elves. It just acts as a full suite of what you need to get rid of their Collected Companies, get rid of their basic creatures, and to also just close out the game when needed be. Then we have Esper Charm, which is a card I'm always back and forth on because it either draws a card or it's discard too. The other Destroy Target enchantment doesn't come up as much. It comes up a little more because of Search for Azcanta being a card, but it's just destroy either Blood Moon or Search for Azcanta. But drawing 2 cards or discarding 2 is good against combo decks, as long as they're not Crystal Brand or Esper Gifts. And the big mana decks, because their top decks are usually better and they're going to resolve most of the time. Serum Vision, Think Twice just help to smooth out the deck and mana base, and hope to draw into cards that would matter more throughout the context of the game. Plus, they make Collective Brutality better, just being able to draw a card, find use for cards that are just actively dead. Go for the Throat is probably my main flex slot, as it is just removal number 10 if I count Collective Brutality. And it could probably be a spell snare or some other form of interaction between Detention Sphere, Engineered Explosives, or Nihil Spell Bomb, just any card that would hit an angle that I feel like would be more appropriate for the setting. This doesn't really run Wrath of God or Supreme Verdict in the main deck because it is more of a mid-range deck than control deck. So Cryptic Commands help to smooth out the essential areas where decks can get messed up or slewed. It is just one of the cleanest answers you have to most of the field. It's Counterspell, which is Counterspell draw a card, which is the main way it's going to be used, but it is also ridiculous to just use in general. I think the card is one of the main reasons that running blue cards should be a thing, and it's efficient. Now the sideboard is creature lands, basic lands, fetch lands, and shock lands with Glacial Fortress and 2 Drowned Catacombs to smooth it out so that I don't have to take too much life, and I also do not and that I don't have any lands coming in tapped too often. Now it does get awkward since I have 6 tapped lands, but usually with 9 fetch lands and 4 shock lands, it works out. Now going on to the sideboard. Right now I have 4 Spellcrawlers, which I think is essential for the deck. Sometimes Gideon and just other cards are not the best form of interaction. So Spellcrawler decides to interact on a level against fair and most combo decks as a clock, counterspell, and it gets around Cavern of Souls. Plus, it is just insane to have. Take out creatures, or take out some cards that are ill-efficient, and bring in creatures that opponent is going to have a rough time interacting with, even though that they're going to keep in some wraths for the token strategy. Supreme Verdict is when I just need to go bigger than other decks that go that interact through the ground, but can't interact in the long haul. So this is against humans, against Eldrazi, against elves, against company decks, against Jund every now and then. It just helps. Collective Brutality as a 4th one helps to bring in these 4th up to 6 hand disruption spells, which helps in the mirror matches and against most decks as mentioned before. It's just bringing in a 4th they're one of the few cards that are taken out on a regular, so bringing in a 4th is consistent and helpful for these kind of decks, since aggro decks are a hard and rough matchup if they get under. Thoughtseize is explicit on being able to interact without having to worry about counter spells. It's insane and one of the best cards to be running. 2 life is mitigatable with other forms. Dispel does a great job at answering combo decks, control decks, even company-based decks. Ruined Halo it can turn off decks as a win con, or it basically puts the game into a new form where they have to interact with it before they interact with you. Against Valakut is almost essential to have in the game, and if they put it on you, before, I don't know if the rules have changed, but putting that and then having Gideon on the field ultimately won the game during times against Valakut. It also is one of the best tools to have just against like Death Shadow when you're just running out of steam and gas. Stony Silence, the uptick of Lantern, Affinity, Tron. It's just Aether Vial decks as some form of another interaction, but even then it's not as good, but you still want. It answers decks that are apparently strong in the format and that can be rough matchups if you're not experienced with them. Now I plan to go into the matchup with Richard right here. These two are just messes, but this is the one I'm going to focus on. Just go over the different plays, the different scenarios of how the game managed, and what Richard and I were talking about throughout the game itself. Because this was a testing match, we weren't really trying to just one-up each other at every moment. We were talking about sideboarding, talking about plays that we made throughout the game. It's just a good thing that it's a good game to look at to represent both the feel of this deck against certain decks like Blue-Red Pyromancer or other mid-range control matchups where you have to leverage your spells in a different avenue than expected. I'm going to go over the misplays that I made in the few games. I'm going to go over why sequencing was right in this avenue and this avenue. And why don't we just get into it before I go on a rant on why I'm a terrible player. Now, with this hand, I decided to keep it because Collective Brutality helps me figure out how I'm going to play the game for the next few turns. Think twice if I need to kill a young Pyromancer is going to be helpful, as I can Collective Brutality and think twice in the same turn, getting rid. Serum Vision just helps to smooth out cards, and Go for the Throat is creature removal on their more important cards in the matchup, which are their creatures. Plus, the 3 fetch lands help to, the 3 lands just help to hit any color I need while I'm focusing on this game. So here, Richard decides to go for the insane play of having Ancestral Visions on the first turn, while I drew a Fatal Push, and I think I'm just either I put in a tap land or I put in a fetch land. I would assume that here I decide to put in that tap because the next turn I don't have a way of spell snaring thing. This probably gives him an incentive to play a creature as need be, but I still have the 2 creature removals, technically 3 if he plays Young Pyromancer. Here, he's just trying to set up his hand while this matchup is going to go for a while, so he's building up the hand early before any form of interaction and battles persist on the stack. Which fetching I drew another Collective Brutality, and I think I'd go for a Collective Brutality here because I don't actually know what the hand is, but he has an opt, which is perfect for me in this scenario because that gets rid of the card and it's blindly. I take Cryptic Command here because it's just one of the better plays to have against me. Cryptic Command in the long haul does answer a lot of problems and a lot of things that I have. It's going to be a counterproductive to play. But it might have been correct to take Spell Snare there in that scenario, as that was one of the cards in hand, because I do have Collective Brutalities, Fatal Pushes, and I have Collective Brutality, Think Twice, and Go for the Throat. So my hand is very 2-mana based. Now, because I'm tapped out, it is proper for him to go for the Think Twice. To go for the thing in the ice, since I had no plans to actually answer it. I knew about the spell snare in hand, and playing Go for the Throat would cancel out anything that I was going to do. I knew that he was going to spell snare no matter what was going to be played. So I was going to wait until he would either draw into a card or just have to fight over the Fatal Push and trying to leverage a thing in the ice. Just trying to figure out what kind of battle Richard was going to play at this time. If it was going to be creature-based or hand-based. The games could go long, but it's a lot of back and forth that never designates who is properly in control at any time. Now, he had another Ancestral Visions here, but he also missed a land draw. So then this gave me an incentive to go above what I was able to do. Fetch, Fatal Push that, just have it off the battlefield before anything actually took focus, and then draw a card because it's Think Twice. Here, it helps me keep up Cryptic Command if you need it to. He has 2 cards that I know of, and he's going to draw technically 4 more because of Ancestral Vision coming off the stack. This gave me Cryptic Command mana up, while not actually giving away any information of what else I could play. So I decided to focus on just trying to figure out what his actual focus of the game was, and just play a more reactive control deck for the time being. Now here, because he played a Snapcaster Mage, it was showing that he was going to be the aggressor in this matchup. And so, gain a threat off the board, I could just leverage my go for the throw for a while, and it just changed the perspective of what this matchup was going to do. He was now going to try to aggressively draw land since he had no means of attacking. It probably would have been better to hold go for the throat and just to just think twice and draw into more cards since my life total is healthy, but I just want to get it off the board and not worry about it later. Now here's where things get messy. I know he still has a Spell Snare in hand, and he just played a Young Pyromancer. I let go of my Go for the Throat, so I only have one form of interaction unless I draw another, and Young Pyromancer, if unanswered, just gets rid of the entire game. It's the most critical creature that I need to deal with. I have enough tokens to block Thing in the Ice once it flips for days, but I do not. My tokens are only manageable by singular spells. And Pyromancer is an engine which their tokens and the amount of spells that exist in Richard's deck can get out of hand and ill-managed from my perspective. I don't think it was right for me to play my Go for the Throat early if I was worrying about being Pyromancer at this time. And since I would technically have 4 lands in play, and I can still Serum Vision's drawn to more, but I needed to get rid of the Young Pyromancer, and that's where the battle was going to be now. So I fetch, get my last land, so I have Cryptic Mana up, and then I drew another Collective Brutality. Here, I just do the same thing and get rid of that Collective Brutality. I'm just going to use, or get rid of that Young Pyromancer, just use Collective Brutality as a removal spell. And it would get rid of the Spell Snare, and then I have a second one up. This would just my focus was to get this off the battlefield, and I still have Serum Vision to help draw me into better cards instead of my next few draws, and Secure the Waste, which just blow off the game if I play successfully. So I get rid of the Spell Snare, and then I have another Collective Brutality. Now, I knew the deck only had one Spell Snare, so this was me being able to mitigate my plays a little bit better. And I do get screwed over because he does have another Young Pyromancer. Now I'm stuck with 2 cards, and my other focus is to draw into removal again. I used already 4 of my 10, so I only have 6 left. Anything that's not a spell, I'm going to Spell Snare or Serum Visions at the beginning of my turn, and if I don't draw into any, I'm just going to, this Young Pyromancer is going to get through the game. So my focus is draw more removal. I did that because it still keeps up Cryptic Command, which I can still try to leverage his plays on. See if he plays around them or not. Cryptic Command is a turn-defining card that either opponent will play around if they expect it, or they worry about it consistently. So I try to keep up mana when it's essential. And also Secure the Waste could end up blocking a Young Pyromancer if he decides to get aggressive with it. He doesn't know my deck list, which is my ability here, but he does have like Remands and Logic Knots and all that card. So leveraging this card is going to be important. I'm still just going to try to draw cards into more threats here. And I'm just trying to figure out the way to play the game from my ability. I decide to go for a Secure the Waste here, but he has the Logic Knot. It just does it for 1. I am either trying to play out spells, or I'm trying to focus on my spells having some impact in the game. This battle loses for me, and he has 6 points, and I only have 1 creature on board. I have 1 Secure the Waste and 1 Serum Visions. which I probably should have gone aggressive to get that creature removal, but I have no means of getting rid of all of his creatures unless I get a Secure the Waste 2 resolve. This game is much on his terms now. This game is on his terms now, which means that I'm only reacting to what he does, and he can do whatever he wants. This young Pyromancer is what took away the game, the first game at least. And I have missequenced by trying to get aggressive with my removal as he got aggressive with his creatures. That's why there's a back and forth. That's why trying to learn how the opponent is trying to play this game is intentful of how either I'm going to win or I'm going to lose. I let it resolve. I let him swing. I have nothing to do. I don't have Slaughter Pact, and I just take it all. Now this next turn is going to what matters. I draw an Esper Charm. Just drawn 2 more cards. I have the Path to Exile, and I just go for it. I just go for Secure the Waste, and if he has anything drawn, I could have Esper Charmed into the Path to Exile, but that wouldn't have won me the game. I would have lost anyways the next turn, because I would have nothing. Going for Secure the Waste would have been a better play, and I could probably play around Mana Leak, but it wouldn't have won me the game. This was going to be a means of me either playing to win the game or to just not lose the game. I needed to either just worry about winning the game at this point and have the battle focus on the battlefield rather than the hand. Now he had more spells to worry about, and I just lost. I just conceded because I knew he had the card logic. So I lost game 1 and conceded to it. And then sideboarding was a main intent of the deck. Here I decided to bring in Spellquellers, Dispels, Thoughtseize, and Collective Brutalities. I wanted to take out Gideon. I took out Serum Visions. I took out 2 Path to Exiles. Brought in Spellquellers. Brought in my Collective Brutality. I believe I just brought in my Thoughtseize and not Dispel. I don't really care for... Or, I think I brought in 2 Dispel and took out, I think Go for the Throat. And some other card, I think it was either Cryptic Command or a Lingering Souls. I want to just focus on being a reactive control deck that had better opportunities to resolve the cards and make the game to be on either of our terms, not just one intentful. So most of the things I had to worry about were Young Pyromancer, and that was it. Spellqueller gets around some of his counter spells, and it is a nice clean answer that he's going to take out creature removal for. He doesn't know the card's coming, so I don't have to worry, and he's probably going to bring in Anger of the Gods. So bringing in Spellqueller is essential to leveraging the game in different moments that is not either too in my control or too in his control. Collective Brutalities, Dispels, and Thoughtseize, they answer the hand and other spells that can help me either resolve cards that need to be resolved. I took out Gideon because tapping out for a 4-mana Planeswalker is going to be rough, especially when I'm doing it on my turn. I'm not a tap-out deck in this demeanor. I am a back-and-forth control deck that will either be a tap-out or be a draw-go for whatever the states determine. And it's going to be trying to figure out the dynamics of the game alongside it, and my hands are going to dictate that. I don't want to be on one side of the axis or another. I want to be just right in the middle so I can be able to adapt to the cards that I need to focus on. So that means I go to the next games, and this one is probably the best game out of the set because I actually realized the kind of game I was going to play. I was going to, as I said, be a control deck that worked on the other axis. And let's just get to the game so I don't talk into oblivion for this one either. Now I 100% decide to go on the play here. Back and forth, it could be either on the play or on the draw. I don't really know which one's better for this, but since I'm not a Drago control deck or anything like that, the card advantage is very sigmatic. My cards are better in the long run, but trying to leverage them is a nightmare. He has a lot more ways to draw into cards and sculpt his hand, so it's probably going to be better for him to be on the draw than it is for me. But the leveraging doesn't come from who has the most cards in hand. It comes from who has the better cards in the time that they need to be played. So I decided to keep, and this hand is honestly great. I have interaction and I have lands. For the first few moments of the game, that's all I want to do is just play lands. He's going to be the same way, but he's going to also sculpt his hand. Well, I don't need to do that enough. Spell Queller is going to be a good turn 3 card because I'm going to be able to play it when I need to, and it's going to be determinant on the type of game I want to play. It's a good reactive card that's going to force him in a for him to react to it while I'm going to have a presence on the board already. He has the nuts again, and I just draw more lands. Now, I'm going to probably flood out with this game, as I already have 6 lands, and I just go with it. It's fine. I want to hit my land drops, because that's what's going to matter when the turns go back and forth, instead of just trying to set up a hand and also try to sculpt what our game plans are. I fetch just to thin out my deck a little bit so I don't consistently draw, and I drew a Cryptic Command, which is, again, is a great card in this matchup. And now I also have I just need to, I have all the colors I need for the long haul. I have blue, I have triple blue and double white. I don't really need double white, but I do have triple blue, which is important for Cryptic Command. And I have ways to play Spell Queller and Snapcaster Mage. I can play Snapcaster Mage on 2 if I need to get aggressive, but because of the amount of lands I have, I don't think it's correct to ever get aggressive with the cards yet. I don't think it's correct to go aggressive with the card, not never, but just not yet. Ancestral Vision is still ticking down, and he just keeps playing a card. Now, shocking there is questionable on what he's trying to do, because I'm not sure what. He has only Young Pyromancer and Thing in the Ice, which are 2-mana spells, and he hasn't played anything, so I'm just still going to put on lands and just pass the turn. I'm at a healthy life total. I have no reason to do anything, but this indicates that he has either a move to play, or he's just trying to spam me out with counter spells and thinking I'm going to tap out. But I'm not going to do that, so it's a questionable play on my decision, and I don't remember Richard's reason why, but it's just, I'm worried about something, but I don't think there's anything to worry about. I just play a land, and this was actually wrong of me to play that land. I should have played Drowned Catacomb, so I had Cryptic Command mana up. So that was a misplay on my part. It doesn't cost me this game, but it is a wrong play to make during this. Sequencing is what matters here. He fetches, goes down to 17, and which I forgot about Vendilion Click, but because he taps out, that means he's missing a land drop. He's going to probably target himself, but this way I have a better card on the battlefield, and he needs to answer it. And I can leverage my game on my terms now. I still have Celestial Colonnade up, but it probably would have been more correct to have Godless Shrine out, because I have Fatal Push and I have Path to Exile. I have both those still in my deck, and this would mean that he has to worry about the next creature he plays. This indicates that I have Spell Snare, but since I don't have Spell Snare in the deck, it makes no actual sense to play a card I'm not playing, to represent a card I'm not playing. I get my Spell Queller, Ancestral Vision has one more turn. He just misses another land drop. I can play another land. I have Cryptic Command mana up, and I just attack and pass the turn. No reason for me to do anything else. Since he plays this, that means he's going to Electrolyze me just to draw into more cards. That gives him 5 different cards to look at now, and Ancestral Visions means he's going to hit a land drop, but he's going to get aggressive again, and I just get rid of this card. He has to have a mana leak, but then I have Cryptic Command, and I have Snapcaster Mage Cryptic Command. This is a fine move, because I can still attack, and I have 4 turns, or I have 4 spells to worry about. Lingering Souls is a great card to have in the later game, so I just wait in. I have Snapcaster plus Cryptic Command. Or I just play Lingering Souls, because it means that he has to focus on trying to get aggressive with Thing in the Ice, and I can just play the games on my terms. This is 4 damage a turn, so 4 turn win, and I do have Celestial Colony, which does, again, win me the game too. So it's, in the long term, it's going to be a 3-turn clock, or it could be a 2-turn clock if I decide to attack. Most of his cards cannot answer Celestial Colonnade, and he already got rid of a Electrolyze, and he needs Snapcaster to play Electrolyze. So right now, I'm just going to be worried about Thing in the Ice, and it might have been wrong to play Lingering Souls, but again, it doesn't cost me the game, so that percentage point is questionable in what. He has to have 4 cards to make Thing in the Ice flip, and I'm not sure if he has a multitude of those spells to cast, but I'd rather either put pressure on the board or things. Since he was tapped out, I just played Lingering Souls at the time, and I do think it's correct not to then. Not to now, but at the moment it wasn't in my mind. Now, Molten Rain's an interesting card here because that means he has a lot of dead cards in his main deck that he take out to bring this card in. And it's not a bad card to have. It's creature removal here, and it does deal me 2 damage. It's also another spell that he plays, but that means he's tapped out and he needs 3 cards to answer. I can use Cryptic Command and Lingering Souls next turn to answer Thing in the Ice, make him play it, and still use my utility to keep attacking and put down to 9, and then I'll have lethal on the board next turn. I just let this go, not even worry about it. I really can't worry about it anyways, so I just let it pass, and I still have another land in play to keep my Cryptic Command and my Lingering Souls play in mind. Which Snapcaster Mage doesn't change any of my plays. I have a Snapcaster, I still have Snapcaster Cryptic Command up, but I don't think it's necessary to play that or to try to leverage that play to put more pressure on the board. 4 to 6 damage is a lot, and he's going down to 9. I have dead in 2 turns, and that's all I need to focus on is getting him dead from this point on. And like I said, I just go for more Lingering Souls to have him dead in 2 more turns. I can go Snapcaster if I need to, and if he just taps out again, or he doesn't do anything. This puts me dead to Anger of the Gods, but then again, he has to have a land and spell, which he has some cards in hand, so he probably does have a Mana Leak or Logic Knot or Remand. But I can just let that happen and play a more controlling game again. He's on the back foot now, and he has to represent being able to win. My cards in hand and in the graveyard are strong enough to get me through the next few turns to help me draw into better cards. And like I said, I just get rid of that on board. It's not a problem to deal with anymore, and I still have lethal. I don't have to worry about my creature gain in. He can draw into Anger of the Gods to deal with this, but that's all I worry about right now. Now, since this happens, I just consistently keep attacking and do nothing until he actually answers some of my cards. Cryptic Command here, I play Snapcaster to get Cryptic Command do this and take over the game from here. If he has Spell Snare, I get a little bit screwed over, but that doesn't bother me enough. I get a Spell Queller in hand, and he deals, and he's not going to get any damage now, but it means that he's going to be on the back foot of my cards, and Spell Queller in hand is still as good as on the battlefield. Because this resolved, he either has to have a Dispel, which isn't that good or bad against me, since there's not really where you're going to be winning the game through that demeanor. I ended up countering this and drawing a card. It's the most efficient play to make. I get to draw into more cards and get into more better cards for different scenarios I can deal with. And I still get a Snapcaster on board. I have 6 damage, he's at 2. He needs to again have an Anger of the Gods in the next few turns, and I still have a Spell Queller, and I will have Snapcaster Cryptic Command up again. It's a fine position for me to be in. He targets me, which might have not been great here. If I were him, I would draw into more sweepers, more cards that just can deal with this, but he gets rid of Spell Queller, as it is a card that he needs to deal with, or he's going to lose the game. But lo and behold, I just get lucky. He plays a thing in the ice, which is fine. I'll take 3. That means he's going down to 2 next turn. I get a land. I just attack. He blocks Snapcaster. That's fine on my part. I'll play a land, and this way I have 8 mana, and he's going to keep... He's on the back foot again. He's going to play a Cryptic Command. I'm going to Spell Queller. Now, this is where I was wrong. This was another misplay I made, where I should have played my Polluted Delta out so that I could fetch Island and Swamp, my last 2 remaining cards, besides another Hollowed Fountain, so I can have Snapcaster Cryptic up. It didn't affect me here, but it was a complete misstep on my part, because I could have played Spell Queller and have Snapcaster up. I do have Think Twice into Think Twice up, but that's not enough to win the game. I'm worrying about the cards he's going to play and not the cards that I'm going to draw into at this point. I have lethal on board, and he can only stop a few damage, 3, so he goes to 1, stops the special lands. If I have Cryptic Command focused, or if I have Snapcaster Cryptic Command, I can stop what he's doing and make him tap out, or just make him have something that's going to put more pressure. Make him have something that stops my pressure, which I'm still getting more pressure on the board, and that's how this game is leveraged, is what I put out on the board and what he's trying to react to. I attack with all my creatures. He blocks 2 of them. He gets rid of his threat, and I still have lethal on the board. He doesn't draw into anything, and I just win. Not many mistakes, but if he had enough spells to cast, he would have flipped Thing in the Ice, and at the end, that would have happened. He would have attacked because I would go down to 1 and makes my fetch lands dead. I have Snapcaster though, so I would have just played it, and then I would have won that game. But this way, my leveraging of the spells is what's important here. There's a lot of back and forth and missequencing that I made to represent different cards that I had at different times. Most of it came from the land sequencing, which is what is determinant of these different matchups. Especially when I know that there's no Blood Moon in the deck. I don't have to focus on that. I can just focus on the cards I need to cast at the times I need to cast them. Now that was game 2, which is in my favor. I'm 1-1 at this point. And then game 3 is a little bit more in my favor of luck. I was down like 5 minutes, but that doesn't matter much. This is a really good hand to keep, but it doesn't have a card draw, and I might get dead. But I do have Path to Exile, Dispel, Thoughtseize, and Logic Knot up at all times. And he mulligan to 5. 100%. This hand is a keep because of all the early interaction and the different avenues it does interact on. I'm going to play a Celestial Colonnade tapped, and then let this game see where it goes. He just plays a land tapped, so he doesn't have Ancestral Visions or Opt. I drew a land, so I got lucky here. But I just play Celestial Colonnade tapped and pass the turn. Again, this is just back and forth. He's playing around Shadow of Doubt, or he's playing a UR Pyromancer, which right now, I 100% just play Thoughtseize, get rid of a card, and path that. Just get it off the board before I have to worry. Now, this helps him with lands, but he still only has 2 cards in hand, and my cards are more efficient of what they're doing. It might have been incorrect to get a Swamp, but I still have cards in hand that I have Esper Charm up, and I could have gone. I could have gone to 15 at this point, and life total isn't going to matter. I try to see what's going on here, so I try to Esper Charm. I get him to just react, get rid of the cards in hand, and this is an interesting matchup, or an interesting area, since it does the same thing, essentially. It gets rid of a card in hand, and he draws. I still have Esper Charm back, which is still a great card to have. We're both tapped out. He doesn't have many good plays to make out of 4, and I still have Logic Knot and Esper Charm. I get lucky and just go for it again, and this is where it hits me that I probably should have fetched another Black Sword since I have Fatal Push. Which, since Lingering Souls, I'm going to get aggressive here. He's only on a few cards in hand, and I just have better cards overall. I miss a land drop, but I still have Lingering Souls in the graveyard, Logic Knot up after this, Esper Charm, and Fatal Push. He only has Dispel only hits my Fatal Push, and I draw another land. 100% just Fatal Push that. Get it off the board. Dispel, fine. I just play a Lingering Souls. This game is now Mitigate. He has one card in hand, and I'm just going to take as much damage as he can. He's not going to attack me, and I just keep trying to leverage this game. I'm attack and then play more souls here. I'll keep Esper Charm if I can. He Snapcaster Mages. I just Logic Knot. I Logic Knot to get rid of it. And now I still have Lingering Souls on the field, and this just taps him out. It just puts a Snapcaster on the field. It might have been right to go for 5, which would put Snapcaster dead, but all my cards in my graveyard were a lot better than the Snapcaster on board. This was just me trying to fight him and make him get aggressive with me. I have Lingering Souls, and I'm going to have 4 different creatures on the board. He needs to answer them, and I can answer his cards better. This Esper Charm in hand is going to drop me or make him discard, and it's more efficient to do that than anything on this board right now. I decided to take it. I go to 12. My cards are better, and I can just attack for 6, and he's dead next turn because it's my Celestial Colonnade. I let this happen. I go to 9. He has 6 damage on board, and I just Esper Charm him. Discard. No reason for me to do anything. He attacks. He has no cards in hand. He just loses. That's the quick game. He just loses on that 3. If he, that's pretty much it. This would have lost me the game if he had exactly Lightning Bolt in hand, but I figured he only has 2 of those, or 1 of them, and having the card in would just been better if I went for the win rather than trying to play reactively. I just wanted to get all the pressure out on board, and he needed to attack me while I could play defense or offense on my terms here. That's pretty much the game. Sideboarding doesn't change between draw and play. The focus of these games are leveraging what cards you want to matter, how aggressive you want to get, and what you can do to make your cards matter at many times. I got aggressive in certain spots, I played defense in certain spots. I decided to battle him on an axis that he could battle on, and I decided to make sure that his cards were either dead or he had to draw on specific ones. Now, this is more retrospective how the games normally go. I played wrongly in the other match that we took, and there was also an issue with one match. If you saw the 3 games that we played, or the 3 matches that we played on my history, but this is the way I was going to win the game. And I had Celestial Colonnade on backup if I needed to that turn, I believe. Maybe not. No, I didn't, but I had Esper Charm, yeah. So this game could have been lost due to a lightning bolt off the top, and the last game was going to be determinant on the way we focus on our different spells. Hitting land drops and sequencing is one of the biggest important things you can have here. Making sure you're able to cast the cards you need when you need to, or having them up if you need to cast them. I have done that wrong on a few points in these games, and fetching is either helped me or ruined me in certain cases where they could have cost me the game. That's the biggest thing to play with this deck in these matchups is it is mana intensive with Esper Charm, Gideon, and Cryptic Command, Lingering Souls. You're trying to hit as many colors as you can at each point. So my lands are only focused on casting spells. And that's the big thing about the deck, is to do the same thing. So like I said, my lands are focused on fetching and being able to cast my spells, while my main deck is just helping to cast those spells. Hope you enjoyed that little run through of the matchup. There were certain times where I could play better, but it didn't affect me. Playing more tight with this deck is a good way to win the game, though. I just think that this is a good way to look at the matchup itself and what Richard and I talked about during the games. Now, I don't know what I would change. Like I said, the Go for the Throat is the main card here that I should probably focus on, either being the flex slot I could put into a spell snare or another form of interaction in some ways. But right now I kind of like having Go for the Throat for the Eldrazi Tron matchup, Death Shadow, humans. It's gets around Meddling Mage, and it's just a good removal spell to have that is terrible against Affinity, but good against everything else. Oh. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Until next time.